What is happening, guys? Chris from NGG here. First and foremost, if you're wondering why there is a Pokemon video on your otherwise Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube, it is because NGG have decided to now merge all their YouTubes together. So on this channel you'll be finding Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe later down the line some Magic, Vanguard, all that good stuff. But for the usual Pokemon players, welcome to the first episode of our mini-series, The Road to the North American International Championships, where I myself will be reviewing the top decks going into the event, also talking about the best variant of those decks, and basically talking about the event and what you should maybe consider playing or consider playing to beat. So we're going to start off with Buzzwole. Buzzwole is a juggernaut of the meta right now. It is super consistent, super powerful. It has so much going for it, and I believe it is actually the best deck right now. It has a case for it, as Necrozma has a case, as Zoroark has a case, but I believe, as I go through the video, I'll explain why I think it is the best deck. We are showcasing Tor Draglev's top 8 Sheffield deck, just basically show off what the deck can do, how he's built it to combat the meta and how the meta has changed. So I'm going to run through the deck list, run through the individual card choices, because he did play some slightly unusual choices, so I'll explain them and basically talk what you can do to the deck if you're going forward into the North American International Championships. So starting off, we are playing 4 copies of the baby Buzzwole. It has 130 HP, 1 energy attachment does 30, that's off to a good start with all the damage modifiers the deck plays. But if your opponent has 4 prize cards remaining, i.e. has taken out 2 1 prize attackers or a big GX, Sledge-Hammer will be doing an additional 90 damage, which is just a phenomenal amount of damage for a 1 energy, similar to Golisopod and the Lucario GX. And swing around for 2 fighting and a colorless, you're doing 80 with a chance of doing 100 or 120 if you're good at getting coin flips. Standard 2 retreat cost and weak to psychic. Torn is playing 4 of these because this is the reason why the deck can be positive in the prize trade. This can take out a lot of GXs before finally falling, so every time you take 2 prizes, your opponent is only taking 1 backwards. So in the end of the match, you should be ahead in prizes. You can't just not leave out the Big Daddy Buzzwole low, because a low you don't really want to start with it or put it down near enough at all. This is a really good game ender for when you have Beast Spring active or you're just cementing your game states just to make sure your opponent cannot get off the wind. And also against Zoroark decks and sort of stage 2 decks, this is a very strong card because Jet Punch causes havoc, knocking out Zaruas, placing 30 onto say like a Ralts or a the Baby Owl, name escapes me, but just things like that. It is really strong. So that is the times when you would actually try and start with Buzzwole. Otherwise, this only comes down because it is fetchable from Brooklet Hill at any time you need it. So Buzzwole just stays in the deck until you're ready to let it loose. Partnering the Buzzwole, you're playing obviously 1 Diancie. This card is just amazing. All your fighting Pokemon do 20 extra damage to your opponent's active. You'll see when we're going through the deck just how much damage modifiers the deck has, and it can hit some really massive numbers for such a minimal energy attachment. Probably the best card in the deck, in all honesty, is the Rockruff and the Lycanroc. Lycanroc is probably the card of the format right now because 2 of the best decks in Lycanroc, Zoroark, and of course this Buzzwole Lycanroc both play the card, and for very good reasons. It is a 20 HP GX that has bloodthirsty eyes that when it evolves that turn you can bring up one of your opponent's bench into the active without burning your supporter, so you can do some crazy stuff like bringing up an Octillery, ending your opponent and knocking out the Octillery. This is just a really good ability. And to back it up, Claw Slash, 1 fighting and a DCA for 110. That would be relevant in the Zoroark deck, however you are playing DCA, so it's 3 energy for 110, which is not bad at all, especially with all the damage modifiers. This can hit really high numbers, and it can cleanly knock out a Zoroark without any damage modifiers, which is just superb. So that's part of the reason why Lycanroc is that played and is that good. And the cherry on top, Dangerous Rogue, probably the best GX attack in the game. It does 50 damage for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Damage like that is you can't play around it, but it's so bad to play around it because decks like Malamar, Zoroark, they really need their bench. They need to play as many Malamars down, Zoroarks, stuff like that. Buzzwole can play around it to an extent, but it's just the fact that you have to play around it is part of the reason that makes Lycanroc so good. So being able to attach an energy to your Rockruff turn 1, it really just puts down the threat of a Dangerous Rogue. You're playing this Rockruff 70 HP just simply because it survives 2 Jet Punch. That's not as relevant as it once was, but like, you very rarely attack a Rockruff. Before, the only time really with Corner against Greninja, which you could honestly play if you want, or the promo Rockruff where you attack attaching a strong energy knockout as Zorua, but the chances of that are very few and far between, so you may as well just play the higher HP Rockruff. And lastly, for consistency's sake, we are playing a 2-2 line of Remoraid. Doesn't matter what Remoraid you play, if you're tagging with it you're probably losing. And Octillery, draw until you have 5 cards in your hand, just makes you end-proof. Ever since Igor Costa won and he played a 1-1 line of Octillery and Lycanroc, Tor decided that that is too thin, not because it's a humongously important engine that if you prize or anything, but it's just because if people think or know you're playing a 1-1 line, they will target down a Remoraid early, and then they can have the win condition in ending you into an obsolete hand. So playing a 2-2 line just takes out that factor altogether, so it means you can consistently have Octillery on board. Same with Lycanroc, they'll target down the Rockruff really early, because attaching any energy to it is a huge threat, so playing a 2-2 line just helps you stay in the game a bit more. Tord is super consistent deck builder, so every one of his choices is purely for consistency. So moving on to the trainers, first of all we have probably the best item in the deck, Beast Ring. If you're behind and your opponent has 3 or 4 prizes, search your deck for 2 basic energy and attach them to one of your Ultra Beasts. This is what I was talking about before. It's the only time you really play down the Big Daddy Buzzwole is when you are in a position really to finish the game, i.e. you have a Lycanroc up with enough energy for Dangerous Rogue. You brick the hell out this, put your beast ring onto it and just set it up just to put your opponent in that sort of snookered stage where they can't really do much or anything at all, because even if they knock out Lycanroc, you have the Buzzwole or vice versa, it doesn't really matter. So that is a good way of playing it down. And besides Beast Ring, we have 3 Max Elixir. Some people consider this a staple 4 of, but Tor decided to play 3 because he is playing only 8 fighting energy. So the chances of Max Elixir hitting are lower, still not low, but lower than normal Buzzwole decks. So that's why he's only playing 3. In this deck you do really hold on to it because he's also playing 2 Super Rod. So what I found in testing is to not immediately use Max Elixirs, hold on to them for a wee while and try and resolve 1 or 2 Super Rods after you thin your deck with draw supporters. Super Rod, Max Elixir, you have a higher chance of hitting and maybe you can steamroll your opponent from there. Froja Ball, that's really standard, not really going to talk about that. 3 Prickle Hill, 4 is far too many because after the first one goes down, particularly in the mirror, the other 3 copies are dead. So Prickle Hill just makes you more end-proof because if you have this on board you can just keep getting resources from the deck, you don't actually need to hard draw them, which is part of the reason why the deck is so good, because it has a field spell that tutors your entire, field spell as Yu-Gi-Oh! A stadium that tutors your entire deck is just insane. Moving on to the supporters, we have 3 Cynthia and 4 Sycamore. He's playing near enough a maximum draw supporter line because he just wants to cycle through the deck. The only time it's going to be offset obviously is to play the Guzma, just to with the prize trade in his favour and take out some problematic Pokemon, but otherwise it's just really consistent way of going through your deck, finding the pieces you need to set up the baby Buzzwoles and everything like that. And lastly, for the supporters, he is playing 2N because it is a win condition itself. What I was mentioning earlier, in the mirror you can go Lycanroc, bring up the artillery and your opponent down to like 2 or 3, and then Claw Slash to knock out the artillery. So lastly, for the items we have 3 Choice Band, 2 Float Stone. 2 Float Stone could be too little, I can honestly see that, because sometimes you start with the Diancie you want out of the active, or you just really want the Buzzwole out, or say the artillery if your opponent tries to Guzmate out and stall you out. So more Float Stones is perfectly fine to play, but you just need the space, honestly. It just hasn't came up for him in testing. And lastly, for the deck we have 4 Strong Energy, 1 Beast Energy, and 8 Fighting Energy. That gives us a total of 13 energy, which is just insane that a deck plays that and still stays consistent, because you think, oh, you're just going to draw a whole hand of all energy, but that is just not the case. You get the energy when you need it, and it is just really, really good. So let's talk about choices that you can maybe play for the deck. One choice I really like is Zygarde. I'll get it up now. Zygarde, this one. So it has the ability Irvin Aura. Damage from this Pokemon's attacks isn't affected by weakness or resistance. This is relevant because of the Dawn Wings Necrozma that resists your Buzzwoles, which takes away a lot of damage. It really messes up your math, so having this down just basically puts exact damage on board that you need to take 2 shots. Peacemaker for 1 energy, 30 plus 30 if your opponent has an Ultra Beast on their side of the field. It doesn't need to be the active, just as long as they have one. So even if that Ultra Necrozma or the Dawn Wings or the Buzzwole is chilling on the bench, Peacemaker will be doing an additional 30, plus maybe Strong is 80, Choice Band is 110, Diancie is 130, so the math just goes up and up and up. That's why I really like the Zygarde. It's not weak to Psychic as well, so it's a tiny bit harder to knock out in that sort of matchup. So that's one of the options you can play for the deck. You can play stuff like more Float Stone if you want, if you think that it's needed. But you will notice there's one exclusion from the deck that you might find a bit weird, and that is Tapu Lele GX. He is not playing any copies of Tapu Lele GX. This actually makes a lot of sense because A, you don't want to start it. Yes, I know the chances of that happening are very minimal, but you just do not want to put a GX on the board at all until, like I said earlier, about putting the Daddy Buzzwole down, until you're ready to finish the game or get yourself in a position where your opponent simply cannot come back. So having to put Tapu Lele on the bench to search like a Sycamore or a Cynthia is really unoptimal, because it is just giving your opponent 2 free prizes. Putting a GX down can also mess with Sledge-Hammer, because they can take 1 prize knockout on a Buzzwole, Rockruff, Remoraid, and then target down your Buzzwole or your Tapu Lele to make Sledge-Hammer not hit for the full amount that you need to hit for. So just not putting a GX down at all guarantees that they have to walk into Sledge-Hammer, which means you take some very vital knockouts and you really just put the prize trade in your favour. So hope you enjoyed the deck, guys. I'm not going to go through any games because I just wanted to talk about the deck itself. I may later on go through some games, maybe stream, see how that goes. But hope you enjoyed the deck. Let me know what you think about the deck. Are you going to be playing it for the North American International Championships? All that good stuff. But for now, this is Chris from NGG signing out.